Hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy. We are back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis, our 22nd century campaign, so running as a contemporary of Enterprise prequel series. So we are back with part 2 of our current adventure, or episode, Let Your Woes Become Your Deadliest Weapons. At the top here, I just have a few shoutouts and some housekeeping to do as well. So first, oh yeah, there have been a couple groups that have started up Star Trek Adventures campaigns of different sorts, and I thought it'd be nice to give them a shout out. Check them out for later. So the first would be CybernationUncensored. They seem to do a lot of tabletop streaming. They are running, it looks like a Friday game right now. Um, in the evenings, it's the other one um, would be the Lords and Ladies of Fate. They have some interesting tabletop content as pertains to this. It looks like right now they've been going on Mondays and Fridays for now. So, again, it's mostly evenings Eastern Standard Time. So if you can check it out, then do so. But otherwise, it's a. But let's see. I think that with all that said, we are just going to switch over to our own game here, which we are joined today by our ship's captain, Colonel Lillian Sharpe, played by Panda, science officer, executive officer, and presently, much to his chagrin, acting captain, Lieutenant Commander Kiran Patel, played by Drone, our ship's tactical officer, Lieutenant Eula Shira, played by Craig, the Andorian military attaché. To clarify, Craig is in fact the Andorian military attaché to the campaign. He just happens to also play that in the game. Um, and then of course we have Felix playing plain and simple Soral, our Vulcan guide here. So with all that, a very quick recap. After you escaped the pirate station known as Uticon, after the Rigelians attempted to pull off some sort of police action, the crew that had been there to infiltrate the station was split up into a couple groups. Two of you managed to reunite. The Aegis managed to pick up most of the crew, including Shira, Lieutenant Commander Romanov, the ship's engineer, Dr. Lambeth, and Zaral. And you were able to learn, once you got on board, thanks to a secret message the captain had left behind, you were able to get a connection with Starfleet intelligence, where it seems the captain's wife, handler, very complicated relationship, it seems.
One, isn't it?
Yes. She essentially explained that Sharpe, in previous years, before her command of the Aegis and really before the Zindi incident, had been basically on a deep cover operation against the Orion Syndicate, and that is how she had developed a connection with the pirate you've come to know as Visenia. She gave you what intel she could about her and tried to help guide your course of action, but it was left up to you exactly how to deal with her. As we have established from earlier adventures in this session, rather, earlier episodes in this kind of arc that we are in right now, Visenia is the most likely party responsible for a raid against the Tellarites, one that has stolen a terribly, potentially dangerous compound, and that if you don't act quickly, could both risk the possibility that the Tellarites might maneuver into Earth space and provoke a war. There's also the question of who has it, and that is something that the captain believes she has a handle on after a particularly nasty argument. They've gone a ways towards patching that up. Uh, you still have fairly disturbing revelations about who might have taken the Kemocite, and we've only just barely relayed it to your crew, who, uh, while the Aegis has given chase, you've attempted to work this in your advantage using the cover that you still have to try and convince them that, you know, at the very least you could give them information and maybe convince Visenia to try and help out and make things right. For their part, Patel did very well helping to support you, Captain, but there was a small slip up on his part. The mention
Yep.
of her name, which, as complications go and like actual narrative type things, uh, actually really did like how that panned out.
I did too.
Yeah.
But goddamn, the double botch was rough.
Anyway, after a promising start to the negotiation, things very quickly deteriorated to where the visual was cut off. Visenia has a disruptor drawn on Chief Justice, the only other member of your crew that is with you, Colonel Sharpe, that is not counting the unusual alien that you have just recently met by the name of Deshawn.
Yeah.
You are trying to convince Visenia not to just execute Chief Justice right before you, trying to figure out how you can find your way out of this. And in those moments that have ticked by where comms were cut off and where, as far as the Aegis crew knows, Visenia just had a gun to Chief Justice and was about to shoot, Commander Patel is forced into the unenviable situation of giving a desperate order, trying to close the distance and knock out the ship.
He's holding his face in his hands, and he just sort of goes, "Do it."
With that, Connolly pushes forward the throttle. The Aegis zips forward, rapidly closing its distance. Shira, on the tactical display, you watch as the range narrows significantly from where you were as the ship's engines jump to high warp relative to what the engine is rated for. And you are now safely at a point where the phase cannons can actually sort of travel through the warped space, or like where your warp bubbles could interact as the Aegis is put right on top of them. With this decisive order here, you actually have essentially an advantage created where you get a round basically of surprise on the crew. It looks as though there's actually no momentum on the board. Huh. Yep, nope, there's actually nothing out there right now, so...
Nope.
Guess we die.
Yep.
That is why we couldn't spare the double botch, because
That's right.
we ran out of momentum.
All right, so how do you wish to spend this this surprise turn that you have now?
I want to shoot the phase cannons and take out their shields or polarized hull plating or whatever they have.
They do have shields, and you may take a shot there. If I may ask, are you planning just to... the shields don't have their own sort of subsystem, but would you just be wanting to take a basic shot in terms of like knocking out their shields, or would you want to target a system like engines, computers, weapons, structure, sensors, or communication?
It's a good question, because it's the first time I've got to fire phasers, which is
at something that wasn't an asteroid in the solar system.
Okay, so
I will. Oh, sorry about that.
It says they're versatile. What does that do?
So versatile means that when you gain the way that I've interpreted it, I have heard a few other takes, but my understanding has been that for every effect that you roll, you gain that much in terms of points of momentum, or in my case, threat.
Okay, cool. I'm wondering if there's any minor actions I can take beforehand, or I should just pull the trigger.
It is a good question. In terms of minor actions, you will notice in the player reference section of your folders for what the players can see in the handout section, there is actually a full list of tasks relevant to combat or space-related tasks that you could engage in. I will say, back on the earlier point, Craig, so far as attacks go, for the purposes of the advantage you have right now, you are in close range in order to attack. So this would be a standard um, control and security type role, and it would be at the base difficulty with energy weapons of 2.
Okay.
If you elect to target a subsystem, the difficulty does go up by 1.
Let's not target a subsystem just yet. So I'll just take a normal, regular, everyday shot. I'll give you a point of threat for an extra dice.
Okay, so that will
I've got a focus in shipboard tactical systems.
apply. Somebody
Uh,
may also roll for the ship with weapons and security.
I got it.
I'm going to re-roll that horrible-looking 0 there with
Yep,
my bold security.
We have 3 successes on the board and 1 complication, which with bold you manage to re-roll. The ship does not help you, but Shira, you still have 4 successes, which is 2 more than you needed, so that will be enough for you to make contact. Whoever has the ship open, if you could just roll damage for the phase cannons, all you need to do is go down to the what should be, I think, the bottom right corner, and click the combat button with the phase cannons. Ooh, that is 5 points of, that is 5 points of damage, with 4 of those being effects, which means that is 4 more points of momentum on the board for you.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
Before anything goes into the pool, do you wish to spend those in any particular way?
I'd like to maybe re-roll those 2 zeros and see if we can get anything extra.
Okay, so that will allow for a reroll. That should give you 6 points of damage now with that attack. Before we resolve anything else, I will ask if you want to.
What are the options? Like, is there like pierce or?
There is. So I'm making that visible to you as well now. And for those in the audience that might just be listening and can't read, there are 6 options right off the bat here. We have bonus damage, which costs 1 momentum, and you may spend basically as many as you have to do that, where you gain 1 additional damage. There is penetration, which is something that you can also spend momentum repeatedly to do. For every point of momentum you spend, you can ignore 2 points of resistance. There is a reroll damage, which you've already done there. There's the devastating attack, which forces me to roll an additional system when determining what takes damage. The swift task, as with ground combat, allows you to keep the initiative, basically. And then there is the power loss, where you can deplete the other ship's power with an attack.
Nice. Okay. I think perhaps spend a couple points on penetration. So we'd ignore 4 resistance. What do you guys think?
How many points do we have to play with now so far?
We've got 5 momentum, I believe.
Yes, there are 5 that have not yet gone into your pool, and that you may use as you wish.
But we obviously want a bit left for the pool for other people to do things, especially with a transporter roll coming up at some point.
Transport roll and freaking some more talking rolls.
Yeah, so maybe just a couple of points in penetration, then try to ignore a lot of their resistance.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So resistance is futile. We're penetrating them.
Oh dear. Okay, so Shira, once the ship gets into a very comfortable range for what you've established these phase cannons can handle, you get a quick lock on the target sites and just start firing and trying to knock out as many sort of shield emitters as you can, inflict a considerable amount of damage in the process. With the Aegis in closer range, the ship begins to let off bursts of yellowish white streams of energy, and each one connects battering away at these shields, the shields of the small little interceptor. Eventually, the hits start knocking them a bit port and starboard, causing the wings to rattle or like dip a bit with each bit of contact. And that is going to be a breach to weapons. You have impacted their weapon systems and reduced their shields by 6 points.
Out of how much? How nasty of a chunk is it?
That is most of their shields. Colonel, you'd probably have the very precise idea, and to be fair, Shira probably knows enough from tactical training to know that that constitutes very nearly, like, she's damaged effectively. She's done more than half the damage to their shields that a raider of that is usually capable of. But yeah, with each impact, the phase cannons manage to just pummel away at the shields. They start losing some coherence in a few areas, and in particular, you get a few lucky shots that land near some of the aft power nodes, near weapons that they could bring to bear on you. So that's momentarily going to knock them askance. I'm going to pass off the momentum. Who would like to be designated momentum officer?
I'll do
take
it again.
Or
Fight.
What? Somebody else
Fight
wants
over
it?
it.
rank wins. Defer to the captain.
No, Shira can have it. Sure.
I defer it to Soral.
Sorry, come again?
Well done, momentum officer.
Oh god, no.
I'm
Absolutely not.
I'm going for continuity. Sharpe, you get the momentum back.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. The officer at Sciences looks over and says, "Hits confirmed. Hits confirmed, Captain or Commander. Yes. This might be Stewart at the Sciences right
Yeah.
now. I don't remember.
I can advise Stuart. Sure. Why not?
I think Soral was at science.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
Sorrel was in science. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Let's-
Sorrel. You got a job.
It's confirmed. Shields are still up. They were still up, right?
They are still up.
Yeah.
So with the round, do we all get a task, or is it only just one for the ship?
So it's more, think of it as a turn here. Or rather, you get a free turn essentially. So one of you or one more person may act for now before it goes on to before it goes over to the pirates essentially.
Yeah, it's team-based. It's team-based initiative.
Yeah.
So when it's your team, one person within your team goes, and then it switches back over to the opposing team.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I would say hit them again. Their shields are still up.
You may certainly elect to do that, although to have Shira act again, it will constitute it is an increase in difficulty, but I believe the difficulty increases by 1 to have a character act again. However, Patel, you can actually compensate for it by technically using the direct task to basically tell Shira, hit him again, and using your command authority, you can assist with presence and command.
Yeah, that's where I was confused on. Is it only like one task? Like if I do that, then can Shira not fire again? Or is that like how that was working was unclear to me. But
well, so essentially the way that I've come to understand it, I was inadvertently running with a strange rule I was running with basically NPC rules kind of constraining the players in past games, which for some of them didn't matter because it was playing with ships of a certain size. Basically, I had understood it to where all combat is based on basically the rounds between the ships, and within that round, you alternate taking turns between the players, and like that was constrained by the scale of the ship. As it turns out, you can actually act for like the actions are based on just the number of player characters that are on the ship. So like the full party can really make a small ship stand out that way. What's the thinking here?
Yes, direct me to do it again.
Yeah. Basically the idea is that everyone should be able to act once, but if you have somebody act a second time in place of somebody else, they can still do something. It just means that the difficulty increases for them to do it.
Just trying to think of what's more useful to you, directing you or rallying you to get more momentum. Like, are you more competent spending momentum than I am in maybe giving a good order? I think I would keep it simple. Let's just direct you. I guess that's fine. Oh, that was fine. Oh wait, that was only one. Oh, well, take the first one. I guess if it's only an assist roll, right?
Yeah, I'll take the single D20 roll, or rather, I'll take one of the successes you rolled there, and we'll just allow that to constitute the assist for that. But yes, Shira, you may roll again for control and security, and this time the difficulty is up to 3. The ship is also still allowed to assist you, I'm going to rule.
And I'll give you a point of fret for an extra dice. I'm going to re-roll that 0. I don't like it.
Okay.
Oh, I wish I hadn't done that now. Oh well.
Well, you have 3.
Don't worry, we'll probably have some momentum to spend on it.
So Shira has rolled 3 successes, but has also rolled a complication after the reroll. If somebody would care to roll for the Aegis with weapons and security, just one more time, please. Then no success from the ship. So you are still netting 1 momentum right now, which, if you wish, Shira, you could use that to take 1 from your pool and 1 that you already have and buy off that complication. Alternatively, you may give the GM additional threat or accept an narrative complication.
I'll buy it off with momentum.
Okay. Panda, if you could drop 1 point of momentum there, please.
Let's start firing phase. Ooh, don't like that. Let's re-roll the. Let's spend a point of momentum to re-roll those 4.
Yep. At present, you have 4 points of damage, with 1 of them being an effect. But yes, remember.
There you go. It's 4 in the end.
Fair enough. So that is another 4 points of damage. 3 of those are effects. So the way we are playing with Versatile right now, that would be considered as another 4 points of momentum that you get back. So now you should just be netting or rather you should be at the maximum 6 once everything flows into the pool. The question is, how do you wish to use it?
Ooh, okay. So we just hit them for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage there. Ooh. Nasty.
Yep, before resistance.
For resistance. And how much? I'm beginning to
It is a scale 3 vessel, much like you, so it resists 3 points of damage.
Okay.
We could spend 1 for penetration.
1 for penetration, I think, yeah.
Ignores 2 resistance, which might be enough to knock out the shields already.
I should.
You can also put power loss too.
Yeah, I'm looking at power loss, thinking, what if we stop them from warping out?
Mm.
Oh, well, they're already at warp, I guess.
But
like,
yeah. So I see what you mean.
You can bring them out of warp.
Or power loss could also. Is there a power expenditure when they use weapons? No, right?
Yes, there is. I was actually going to say I'm just going in now to remove 2 points of power from the ship for power expenditure.
Yeah, because maybe power loss would also help to neuter them a little bit too. Like they can't escape and they can't fire back.
Okay, so 1 point of momentum on penetration and 1 point on power loss.
That and having the lights go off probably makes it more dramatic for the captain.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, just to check, 1 point to ignore resistance, and then 1 to disrupt their power slightly. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, first, just going to assign you what is netting out to be 1 point of momentum since Panda hasn't dropped his. Shira, you rush to to acquire a target lock or continue the barrage. Before the ship has a moment to respond, you manage additional shots against their against their weapon systems, trying to further exploit that weakness. You have actually you managed to hit the aft cannon directly that they have, which seems to be a cannon, literally a cannon weapon mount, and thus have further damaged their systems. It's still probably operable, as would be other parts of their weapon systems, but you have inflicted fairly significant disruptions to that at this point. So yes, that is 2 breaches to the weapon systems.
Excellent shooting, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir. Been eager to give this a go for a while. I think I've managed to also damage their weapon systems as well.
Wonder, do Andorians say Lieutenant or Lieutenant?
Yes.
Whilst you are commending yourself for the good work that you have done, the Bridge of the Spoiled Prince is in decidedly less organized shape. Sharpe, in the moments you had where you were making eye contact, it seemed like there was nothing else but you and Visenia and Chief Justice. You probably barely noticed as the one of the Orion officers called out very suddenly, turning back to their console, alerting you to the Aegis suddenly being in proximity, and even less time to react before the barrage of phase cannon hits managed to just cut away through the shields. Actually occurs to me with that, I was running that back. Oh, that's actually enough to take down their shields. Oh no, and that means the weapon systems are actually even worse than I thought. But before you can truly come to your senses on any of that, the entire ship feels like it's rocking back and forth as bits of conduit explode out in areas, sparks flutter through from some of the consoles and other power nodes as the EPS systems that run through the ship begin to spike at moments. Some of it thankfully disperses as harmless gas, but other bits do manage to burn some of the crew or come very close to it. You and Visenia are both knocked. Your eye contact is broken as you are both knocked about the ship, and Chief Justice is probably sent tumbling over to his side. In the moments where she can get back to her chair, Visenia calls out to one of the Orions, "Report!" The lights flicker as one of the Orions tries to get to his console. Several direct hits. They got on top of us very quickly. Weapons offline. Shields down. You focus on get those shields back up. Somebody need to get the weapons back online. Eddie, if we get something online, can you find a way to knock that out?
Yeah, I'll figure something out. The moment she turns her back, I'm going to slam her.
Pulling out your
I have my phaser out. I have my phaser out because I was
Yep.
pointing at crimes. Remember? So
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so going for a non-lethal shot, that is control and security, and that will be difficulty of 2.
We got momentum if you want to buy extra die.
Control, security, close quarter combat. I will spend a momentum to get an extra die. With the -20 before, or with the botch on Visenia's end at the very end of last session, do I have advantage? Now, I forgot what advantage does to a roll. What does advantage do to a roll?
There isn't properly an advantage mechanic. I think the way that you might be thinking about in terms of like something like Dungeons and Dragons, you can create advantages that might reduce difficulty or otherwise increase a complication range for an opponent or make a task for them more difficult. For just a simple ranged attack, there's nothing Visenia can do per se to make things more difficult for you besides seeking cover, which
All right.
she doesn't know to do while she's trying to keep her ship running essentially, or try to get the weapons back online.
Yeah. All right.
I suppose the advantage can be essentially that you have the ability to act against them without anyone being able to actively interfere. Like the
Yeah. Okay. I could do that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Can't think there's anything else I have. Nope. Okay. I'm gonna make the roll.
Oof.
Oh my
Oh
god.
no.
Well, I have cautious, so I'm re-rolling those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is 3 zeros with 1
There we go.
complication range.
Much better.
And that
Slightly
is
better.
with cautious, yes, incrementally better. 5 successes, two of those d20s being crits. Very specifically, a 1 and a 3. So yeah, there is maybe.
Actually, nope.
Okay.
I will make a point of order because I did this wrong. It was cautious command, not cautious security. So instead, I'm going to use a determination, and I'm going to use I don't start fights, I finish them, to make that reroll possible.
The GM accepts the ruling, accepts the point of order here. That would be correct. I must admit I don't remember if cautious has evolved to going for the full pool at this point. But I'll double check. Anyway, accepting the determination ruling there.
And I don't get it back. Okay.
Yep. The veteran talent does not act in your favor. But Colonel, I'll say that as you raise your phase pistol, let that first roll basically reflect hesitation, or that instant of thinking back over the memories that you have with Visenia and what what this means to do in this case, or how that might affect trust in some way. And that instant later reflects the knowledge that Chief Justice is at your feet, threatened with imminent death, and has only been spared by the actions of the Aegis, saving him and creating a bit of creating some uncertainty for you. You raise your phase pistol and you pull the trigger, aiming square at Visenia. Roll damage for me, please.
I'm going to spend 2 momentum. I gained a lot of momentum from this, right?
You did indeed gain 3 points of momentum, which are presently floating.
Okay, I'll spend 2 for disarm. And then I will spend another 2 to keep initiative. No, I'll do. No, I'll take 1 back. Sorry, give me 1 back. I'll spend 1 minor. God, I really don't like any of this. I'm looking at all this shit, all the stuff. Panic away. Deep breaths.
Yep.
I'm becoming Patel here. I spend 2 for disarm, which I did. I have 1 floating and 3 left over. I am going to use 2 for additional swift action. So damage.
Yes.
And this is at stun, by the way. I'm just.
I figured we'd established you had already declared a non-lethal injury.
Yeah. Cool. Phase pistol.
5 points of damage, which will be enough to cause an injury, which, when it comes to stun weapons, that is enough to incapacitate. So the phase pistol shot fires out, the yellow beam connects with Visenia. She goes rigid for a moment as at the sudden impact, and then, dropping her disruptor pistol, falls to the ground. She is stunned.
Cool. I'll look at the crew. Would this be a minor action, or would this trying to convince them? Or would this be an extra task? Because it
think
depends.
that this would be declared a
swift task.
Yeah, persuasion would require a.
Well then, have 1 token to finish off the 2.
along with the other floating one. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'll look over and just look over daringly. I just shot my wife for the lives of yours. And to be honest, I don't know any single one of you, but I do know, much like you, I value my life. So perhaps it's better to cut our losses, raise our hands, and see about getting ourselves out of it later. She gives like a toothy grin, though it's very daring of like, don't fucking test me.
Okay. So this is, I think the way to rule this here, this will be a presence, and you may either roll command or security. I know it doesn't make quite a difference. Really,
Yep.
it's about the tone that you want to set, whether you're trying to be the affable, persuasive type, or if you're leaning into more the I just shot my wife, I think I could do the same to the rest of you. Who wants to test me sort of intimidation.
Let's do. I could definitely swing it either way. But I'm already kind of crazy. They already know that. They already understood that. I mean, I have married Visenia of all people. So let's go with just affable.
Okay, so your base difficulty is
Spending
2. However,
Yeah.
it is considered a contested roll against against their insight and command.
All right. Inspiration or diplomacy.
Uh,
Or gambling.
This
Gambling
is
can apply to everything.
This is a gamble.
Yeah. I spend 1 momentum for it after die. Yeah, okay. Let's roll. Not bad at all.
Okay.
If this was gambling, you probably just got Dabo.
I'm going to treat this the whole crew on the bridge as basically a squad, so they will get an additional d20, but this will be them rolling together. The two Orions that are still conscious on the bridge look to each other, back to you.
Ooh.
Say the words, boss. And
Great.
with the 5 successes you scored there to their 1, that will grant you back 4 momentum to your pool.
I'm gonna spend 2 to get where the frick is it? Keeping the initiative, and I'll just lightly kill Dylan. I'll just lightly kick Dylan with my steel-toed boot, and just say,
I won't force you to spend the momentum to keep the initiative on that.
All right. I'll just lightly, but still like in a theater-like manner, kick Dylan. All right, you treacherous dog. Come on, call your boss. We give for the moment, as long as they play nice.
He looks confused for a second, then he sort of gets it. Oh, okay, yes. My boss, right. Wink.
She just sighs and shakes her head. Just call the damn shit.
Crimes reaches over at this console right in front of me and just hits a button.
Yep. Mere moments later, with the Aegis preparing for its next salvo, Mr. Crichton turns to you, Commander. Sir, I'm receiving a hail from the spoiled prince, sir. They are requesting a truce, or well, I think so.
And Patel lets that hang in the air for a second. Put them on screen, Mr. Crichton.
You see ahead of you, in the place that you had seen Visenia standing before, Colonel Sharpe, very much looking the part of the rogue space pirate identity she has adopted, Eddie Darkstar Teach. Alongside her is Chief Crimes, who, for effect, are you still holding the phase pistol to him?
Yeah, just loosely. I'm still crimson red, painted like skeletal on my face and body, with that leather jacket hanging over. she'll just grin and shrug. You made your case. How about parlay? You guys know what parlay is, right?
He's still not quite used to addressing you as Teach, so he's very much. Oh yeah, we know what that is, of course.
Great.
Ms. Darkstar.
Just Darkstar.
Is it Miss or Mrs. Darkstar?
Ms.
Mrs.
Mrs.
Married, right?
Darkstar, but Darkstar works. Any case, you want to beam us up? You want to board? What do you want to do?
If you're surrendering yourself to us, we will gladly beam you aboard.
Well, you're the ones the faces point at us. We know better. As long as you treat my crew fairly and certainly don't roughhouse them too much, they might actually enjoy it. She says, looking over at some of the Orions. They're getting a little antsy. The missus might need a bit of medical attention. That's my requirements.
Patel keys the mute button and turns over to Shira. Lieutenant, would you advise occupying the ship or just beaming our crew back?
I think we need to inspect that ship. It might have data pertaining to the taking the shipment of the Kemocite. Or just general pirate data, which also be kind of useful too.
Okay. Prepare a security team or Makos, whichever you see fit. And
Yes, sir.
I unmute the button. Your conditions are accepted. Please coordinate. Have your helmsman coordinate with ours, drop out of warp, and come alongside for docking.
While they're muted, she'll just, still staring, but just sort of like talk to the side of her mouth to the rest of her crew. All right, you scallywags. Anything you don't want the old capos to know, better chuck it or find a nice deep hole to put it in. Got maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes tops. But after they turn this damn thing off.
You just get a, yes, boss.
I'm looking at you. She looks like one of the Orions. I know you got some weird stuff. You got that skittery kind of look.
That man is playing Gallagher. Thought we didn't see it, but we did.
He quickly minimizes the Gallica tab. Alas, his taste in old Earth video games is it is the habit he is most ashamed of.
And I swear, if you beat that high score, that's my high score. She says, like, giving it a serious, like, I'm gonna fucking murder you.
Yeah, the Orion just gulps and starts preparing the once the mute button's back off and Patel relays the orders, he'll start getting ready to drop out of warp.
No. We'll wait for your arrival, boss, she says with a clipped tone and a grin, and just cues off.
Okay, now Patel reaches for the oxygen mask.
Yep.
Good job, sir. That was well done.
Couldn't have done it without the rest of you.
Okay. So let's get ready to transition here. We'll put it at the captain's mark. About 10 minutes later, the Aegis, pulling alongside the spoiled prince, manages to come in alongside. I don't know that there's actually an easy docking port or docking system given the relative dimensions of each ship. It might be a situation where, I'll just rule that there is like a ventral hatch on the Corsair, which you are able to lock in with the airlock. So let's get ready to move things over. We'll probably go debating whether to put us in the airlock or theater of the mind. I guess would you prefer to just cut ahead to sickbay where later on the crew is starting to interact with some people, or how would you guys like to run scenes?
I think we can skip. You know, we can assume that we take the ship and round up the crew and stick them in brigs and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in that case, like obviously there will be varying levels of interrogation or things that you'd want to do. I think that's at least one scene in sickbay, which, while we don't have Dr. Lambeth for this, Craig, if you'd want to activate Nurse Marple, and if anyone in command wants to be around, then that's an option.
Jane Marple.
Yep.
Actually, I was thinking about having a meeting room because the captain certainly would like to talk to the crew.
Okay.
Or at least talk with Patel.
Yeah, we could easily put the we could put some senior staff together as the first scene back. Where would you prefer to do this, in the briefing room or the ready room?
The briefing room.
Okay.
The brig. No.
Reminds me of the that one scene from the end of the chase, or not the chase, the one where the Next Generation episode where Picard, it initially looks like he's dead, but then he's part of that hard scan pirate crew, and it's like
With the Gambit, I think.
Possibly. They're debating on who should actually be taking duty right now, and like who deserves rest more right now. And Data notes, technically, sir, you are considered dead, and you are considered a renegade. And Picard's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I was still legally dead by your record. Well, I'm going to go to bed then, and Mr. Data, you can have the con right after you take Riker to the brig. And goes into his quarters, and Data just starts nonchalantly taking Riker to the brig. It's like, that was a joke!
Yeah,
Also, hey,
I remember that episode. It was a great episode.
Yep. Also, hey there, Victor. Good to see you in chat there. Hope you are having a good day, having fun. We'll get back to, let's get things over. For the briefing room scene, and I suppose partly for, I guess you don't really need to preserve KFAB at this point, but would you have anyone else there? Would Shira have been the escort?
I play up KFAB up till we get to the meeting room.
Okay. Would you have a Mako escort, or is Shira personally assigned to do this?
Well, I'll definitely have a Mako escort for this fiendish pirate.
Yeah.
And I've got my phase pistol ready to draw and shoot.
It's more a question of whether you wanted to be in on this particular scene.
I would love if everybody joined. Like, who do we have today? We don't have very many people. It's like
it's you three and Saral.
Yeah.
Which the doctor will be out of the scene. I can NPC Romanov. Brian has given me all the guidance I need for that. Crichton can be there too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like everybody there.
Okay.
Because it's definitely big enough news that we need to figure things out.
Fair enough. Patel will be there too, and we'll visit sickbay here in a little bit. We can pick up while the meeting is occurring, essentially. So, yeah. Patel, you leave the Mako guard outside, with Shira guiding Captain Teach, or Captain Darkstar, quote unquote, into the briefing room, and as soon as the doors close, you can drop the pretenses if you so wish.
Yeah, the powerful yet lackadaisical presence that is Teach sort of just shifts more stiffly and more properly into a calm and I had the word in my head, now I forgot it. The more put together Captain Sharpe. Lieutenant, if you can release me, she says, raising the
yes,
cuffs.
of course. Yeah, I'll release her from the cuffs.
She's still shirtless, except for the leather coat. Probably.
Do you need a blanket or extra? I could give you my jacket.
I got a jacket, but just if you give me my uniform, or rather, we're not sure how far we have to go into this, so just give me a towel and something to scrub the stuff off, please.
Crichton, could you get the captain a towel?
Oh, yes, sir. This is exactly what I trained to enter Starfleet for, and this is my purpose as an NPC. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Good. Well done.
Does anybody else want a warm towel?
Oh, yes, please.
She just smiles, shakes her head. She'll get up and I will set up the security measures that probably my wife has given me to make sure nobody can eavesdrop on this meeting in this room.
Which wife?
Yes.
Which one?
Yes. My spook of a wife. Before she'll just sit back down. Well, sorry for all of this charades, and certainly did not expect to have this sort of meeting. Everyone all right?
I survived, and I'm sure others did as well.
You did pretty well, Patel.
Romanov. Oh, God.
He blushes. By the way, Captain, do you want to switch seats?
If you please.
Play musical chairs.
Oh. Yeah. There you go. She sits down.
Patel looks visibly more comfortable in his normal seat.
All right. Well, certainly, from what I understand of the information I've gotten so far from from Visenia, is that there is her original buyers were Andorians from the Imperial Guard, no less. I was going to get more details before certainly things have gotten a bit upended. Though, before we even get started, I suppose, and I'm sure, Shira, you'll need a moment to process all of that. Let's just get it all out of this airbase system so we can focus. If you have any questions regarding my deep cover or my interesting relationship statuses, feel free right now. You have 2 minutes.
Romanov immediately goes down a list on a physical paper notepad.
Romanov, you have 2 questions.
Can I do a momentum spend to give him more?
It's like, first question, what? Second question, what? Really?
So I think Soral is just going to say it certainly puts your attempt to arrest me for piracy in new light.
It certainly comes from experience. She gives a small tempered smile. Any other questions? What would you like me to start? Or do you have more pointed questions?
How many more of these surprises can we expect in the future?
Probably a couple, but not too many. I like to keep a very colorful life. I'm only in my 20s. Just gives a smile. Like a grin.
Kids these days.
Patel, you have any questions?
Yeah, Captain. Are you back? Please say you're back. He says under his breath. Nobody hears that.
She can't help but laugh a little bit. Certainly, I'd like to be. And this whole deep cover was not something I expected, nor do I choose to keep permanent. I want it so long as this identity helps be a boon for our current mission. Certainly, I like to upkeep it, but things have certainly gone a bit upended, if you haven't noticed.
What should we do about Visenia? Your other wife?
Let's break that down for a moment. From what myself and Athena have come to understand and respect is that our marriage and relationship is a bit open. We're a very long distance relationship. We're very comfortable with our relationship. And certainly, especially when it comes to her profession, is that there might be contentions with any sort of monogamy or sort of tight-knit relationships. And we don't want that to be conflict with our own ambitions or anything else in the future. So for the moment, she's comfortable relatively with me being married to Visenia, and certainly it's not like I go off to visit my pirate of a wife. It came due to an unfortunate cultural debacle. One that I did not intend. If anything, I was simply using her as a hostage in order to get out from a fleet of Orion ships, and mostly got through. She says, thinking back on it.
Oh, if I may be so bold, sir, says Crichton, who has come back with warm towels for everyone, to have heard the question and your response. I don't think necessarily that question is germane. Personally speaking, whatever polycule you are comfortable with, and which all of you can agree to, such as you have agreements on that, although I guess Visenia doesn't have quite as much say given the covert nature of the thing. That's a whole other social dynamic here. I don't think anyone here necessarily objects to the idea of the captain being in a polycule of some sort. But
just making sure. I know people get a little bit has reservations with such things. Want to break it down. But thank you, Creighton.
That's just the old colonial mindset. Hell, it's coming back in style on Alpha Centauri.
We maybe get back onto the maybe more important thing here.
Crichton nods here. It's like, actually, yes, the lieutenant has a very good point.
That we do. And certainly, our one to raise the hand. Are we done with any questions related to that, or can it wait until after the meeting? Can we all focus? She looks at everybody to make sure that they have all the questions out, and looks at Romanov. I am sure you have plenty of questions, but if it can wait.
Tell you what, Skipper, I'll hold off until the actual player that runs me is back, and then I make no promises.
Terrific. Anyone else? Great. Go ahead, Cher.
So, that pirate is accusing the Imperial Guard of using her to get some Kemocite.
From what it sounds like, and from what I already had concerns about, It seems that ever since the Zindi incident on Terra, there has been a number of powers looking to certainly establish more of a balance, a more tilt in their favor. And certainly our current patron certainly has a very interesting reason why we would have that much to begin with. And the Andorian simply, with the contracted help of an outside source to prevent any diplomatic issues, likely wanted to skip a few steps in acquisition.
I can well believe that we'd try to build a Kemocite weapon. I find it very difficult to believe he'd use Orion pirates to procure the Kemocite.
It hasn't been the first time that a power has used privateers before, Shira.
We're gonna need some more proof than the word of a pirate.
True enough.
And has she offered any proof, or is it just all words?
She was in discussion before more details got in the way of, or other things got in the way of details.
We should rack their ship's logs then. Find out who she met and passed the Kemocite off onto.
Certainly, I can help with a few of those, but it has been a year and odd since I've kept up with any sort of security measures that Visenia has established. So be very careful in such things. I'd also like to, and this is my proposition both from her to her as well to the rest of the crew, we could probably use a bit of help, as certainly we're under time. And I know Visenia personally, more than just the criminal that she is, but as a person, that this sort of deal didn't come without a sizable dollop of guilt. And she might be willing to help us if we play our cards right. But right now, she's certainly somewhere in her lowest of lows, given the fact that she's captured. I just overthrew her, and she doesn't have much of a ship left. So I'm willing to think of options. We have, she looks over at Patel or Crichton. How many days left?
We have, at this point, sir, approximately 9 days left. Well, more like 8.5 now.
Not very much time at all. Shira, I know this is quite the test of loyalty, but this sort of thing can't. I don't intend to return it to the Tellarknights, but certainly that sort of class of weapon should be slowed down, if not removed from the board. Even the ability.
I doubt we're involved in this. I think the pirates just making up stuff to cover their ass.
But if they are, I think you would know how to track one, wouldn't you? Discreetly. I don't want Andorian Command to know. I don't want to spook the vessel. But if there is a cruiser and the freighter still out there within relative distance, I want to approach it and stop it, interdict it if need be. Can you find, if you can find a Andorian cruiser, could you?
Jira is gonna go very still at this point. Find me evidence that the Imperial Guard are involved, and maybe I'll do it.
I'm sorry, sir. I also need to ask, are we talking about firing on an Andorian vessel?
That I won't do.
Not at the moment, she says after a moment pause and like gives it a serious think. I do know that the quadrant itself is falling apart, and certainly tensions are getting high in every single corner about it. So much so that even a very capable pirate as Visenia is trying to leave this entire sector and try to go as far as possible, willing to make as many risky gambles or willing to barter their soul to just get away from it. And that's certainly, once the birds are spooked, it certainly is some sort of storm coming. And we have to put a stop to it before it gets out of hand. All right, Romanov, Shira, Saral, I need the three of you to take apart that ship. Keep it as serviceable as possible, but get as much data as you can. Be very careful for any booby traps or methods of deletion. Doctor, how bad is... She almost is my wife. She says, how bad is the princess's injuries? She says.
Oh, I didn't realize you used that as a pet name there, but well, that patient, she seems all right, just basically giving her some basic sedatives for now, keep her comfortable. It was only a stun shot. She'll be around in a bit, and such that I understand Orion physiology, she seems okay. But well, the other patient is also doing okay. I suppose I should mention that too. I've kind of not given them a lot of questions yet, but just under the Mako guard there.
Yes, sir. We brought that Ephal character. He's Mazarite, but it turns out he's actually a Malurian.
If you can refresh my memory, kind of what Malurian is.
Well, of course, Malurian is.
Yes, of course.
Pentacles.
The reptilian people that are reputed for it, well, at least in some cases with the more criminal elements, are reputed for their disguise. That's particular common from the NX-01 records as pertains to the Ral Dual alignment.
Great. All right. Batel, if you can do some research regarding the Malurians, you and I can interrogate our the first guest. Doctor, if you can make sure that Visenia is nicely set up in the brig, but healthy.
Okay, all right. I'll get him moved over with some Makos, and if you don't mind, Lieutenant, just cart her over there and get her in with some of the Makos. And Nurse Marple, she's also there right now, so she should be pretty well situated to help you with the other patient, whatever his proper name is.
I would like your help on that, Doctor, as well, once you get Visenia set up.
Also, what about the actually, this is a pertinent question. Deshawn was brought it occurs to me
Deshawn is brought on. Yeah.
It's The thing is, the Makos, I don't think any of them received the order that, or like any information that he, at least we didn't establish anything beforehand that they were
what
told.
Shira would have ordered before bordering is that anyone you come across is to be handcuffed. If they resist, they're to be stunned. Everyone's to be brought to the brig. It doesn't matter whether they're prisoner or members of the crew. We then can sort them out later and apologize for any inconvenience.
So what you're telling me is that they shan us in the brig.
Yes.
Good.
He was just left in the galley to like putz around, maybe get into some of the whatever leftovers remained from the breakfast. Then everything starts exploding around him, and
I think when the shooting started, he kind of went looking for his new best friend, Chief Crime. And found only like probably not much, and then Makos, and he was very fighty.
Yeah, she'll just say, that reminds me. She looks over to Crichton. Crichton, there's some interesting going on with the new alien that I acquired at the Pirate Den. If you can probably do your best to try to translate for him. He speaks in some sort of like metaphor.
Did you buy a sentient life form?
I did not buy anybody. I recruited.
Didn't you
Captain's pay in Starfleet doesn't afford enough to buy a person.
Technically, protocols do exist where you can effectively press gang somebody in, or at this point, or impress the occasional figure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
At the moment, I just would like to understand the new crew member, as it were, possible crew member, before we do anything with them. So if you can work on that, Crichton.
Okay. I'll check in with this other alien that you've mentioned.
He's probably in cell 3.
We'll do, sir. Deshaun just having the worst day.
I mean, he's not in a gladiatorial arena for like 24 hours, so
yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good so far.
Could be worse. Could be worse.
Yeah.
Brig's probably crammed. He's probably got to share with at least. Oh, geez.
Oh, come on! Even the privates gave me privacy.
Actually.
Oh, with 10 other Orions amongst there's maybe like 4 brig cells, and I mean that's like 2 brig rooms that are split up. It's like he's sharing with at least one more Orion.
Actually, in thinking about it, Dr. Shira and Dr. Lambeth, if you can give Visenia a private quarters and just make sure that is absolutely secure, I can probably work with that and open her up more towards revealing more details. Certainly give her the respect of a captain that is deserved. Even if it is
I'll have engineering remove anything from there other than the bed.
Right. I suppose I'll send it that way then instead.
Good. Any questions, thoughts?
Too many and none that can be answered here.
Great. Go look for them. Dismissed.
Okay. So as the meeting breaks off, does anybody want a more confined scene, or rather something with a smaller group of the players that are here, or would you rather just get on with the other things that you have to do?
I would like to grab Patel just as he's about to leave, and I'll say, not you, stay.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
I put the warm towel back down on the tray that Instant Crichton brought.
Yeah, she's already cleaned herself off as tastefully as possible. You did well. I am impressed that you've kept everything in one piece. I expected as much. And certainly, it seems you've gotten just a little bit more comfortable with that chair.
I wouldn't say anything that I couldn't take back, Captain.
You didn't immediately go screaming off away from the bridge the moment the view screen popped open. And you did slip up, but it is a honest mistake, and there was a lot of tension in the air. I think you did quite well, Patel.
Well, thank you, sir. That said, at some point we're going to have to talk about some shore leave for myself when this is all over.
Oh, it's adorable that you think that exists, especially amongst command positions. But sure, we'll figure it out. Certainly, this crew needs it, especially after this. You doing okay?
I'll hang in there, sir. I think it's going to take me a little bit of time to process some of the things about the situation, and he clears his throat nervously. About you, if I can be so bold.
Continue. If you want to clear some air, go for it.
No, it's not that. It's just that I think your illicit activities were something that took us all off guard, and your first officer most especially.
It is something that I was under security clearance not to say, and certainly given the distance from its original operational area, I had no plans of there was no need to declassify it. If we were anywhere close to it, I would have told you immediately, Karen. And certainly I'll let you in a few more things that she did like things about it for a moment. I'll talk to my wife. My Earth wife. She gives a shake her head and just amused.
Yeah, but before you say that, he tilts his head because he doesn't get this whole relationship thing.
Yeah.
But he's on board now. He's got it.
Yeah. I'll talk with my handler and see what I can tell you.
Well, anything that you can give me if the situation pops up again to better understand your thinking would be helpful.
If anything, I did not expect to be merely put in such a corner, but it was our only lead and certainly the best chance of it. I held on to it and I did my best to relay as much as I can. And I'm sorry I did not have better. I'm sorry I didn't think of better methods to do so.
I think it worked out for all of us in the end, anyway, as uncomfortable as it might have been. But as you say, it's maybe a growth opportunity.
Do you need to take a moment before getting on to the other details?
No, I'll be fine. Maybe stop on the mess hall and get a nice relaxing tea before I head back to my station.
I'll give you 10 minutes. You did good.
Thank you, sir.
Can't wait to see you the next time you're put in the spot.
He immediately goes pale.
I'm kidding. But it's something you got to get used to, especially with such a bold frontier out there. There's a lot of surprises out there. And you can be surprised, you can be dreading it, but you have a good head on your shoulders, and once you find the methods to process through it, I think you'll be an excellent captain, Kieran.
He doesn't pale at that. He just sort of gulps. And you can tell he's thinking about something, but he doesn't really have anything directly to say.
No. All right.
If there's nothing else, Yep. Thank you, Captain.
She gives a nod.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in my quarters to get change of clothes. She says, looking at her very flashy clothes. Yeah. All right, that was it.
All
Cool.
right. So before we move on here, I did want to ask: does anybody have any other very immediate sort of question or concern as far as like anything that would immediately come off the meeting? Oh, hearing none. I think then it would probably tell you what. I think that we would want to take just a few moments just to get things reset, and maybe how would everyone feel about taking a short break, say 2-3 minutes here, just to like get a quick bio
Sure.
break, get like water, something like that, um, and then we'll come back here. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, okay.
Works for me.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to mute our audio just very briefly here, and then we will come back with a. We'll come back here in just a moment, players, so that we can get things taken care of. We'll probably we'll have a set of scenes worked out with what we do next, and
If you excuse us, what was your name again, sir?
Ethal.
Ethal,
Yeah.
of course.
Also, very fun fact, we have just crossed a milestone of a most dubious sort as far as Twitch goes. The recording should not be affected, I think, but oh, actually, it might well be. I believe I was muted for an extended bit of time, so they
Oh,
heard your
no.
half of the conversation, but not mine.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's all in our heads anyway, so I guess it makes sense.
Yep.
Oh.
But I'll say in it that I can't really chastise anyone for that besides myself. But for context, the crew has been for those here. Geez, when it comes to the archive, this might just come out as I might have to go back and just edit this scene down. But in essence, the captain has been playing along with the Mazarite individual. And trying to convince him that basically to give them a channel of some sort that would allow them to contact a ship. They're not leaning into the fact they know he's Malurian, basically. So.
Right. So, just look over to Patel and taking the pad and smile. I think we're done here. Thank you, Ethal. We will certainly send the message very shortly. Just make yourself comfortable, and we're sorry for the slight inconvenience, but I'm sure you understand.
Very well. Suppose if there's if I am well enough to leave this place, then perhaps we could arrange proper quarters.
Certainly, I'll talk with the quartermaster, but if you can just stay a moment, I'll get that arranged.
Is he well enough to leave?
He's doing okay. Yes, I imagine at this point the arm is more just bandaged than anything from where the last wound that was left was, or the wrist wound.
The captain turns around about to leave and just sort of stops and taps the pad a little bit, taps the corner of the pad. There's one more thing, though. I'm terribly sorry, sir, Ethel. We encountered something very odd, and I'm hoping you can clear it up. Something small, she says.
And what was that?
When my doctor, and he's quite the professional, made sure to clean and bandage your wounds, there were certain medical anomalies that have cropped up that certainly don't. Well, do you have any some sort of condition that we should be aware of?
I have nothing that would be contagious to your crew. You can rest assured, Captain.
Of course. It's just. She looks over to Patel, gives like a shrug. You see, my second and I were a little confused because the signs started pointing into more of a, well, less of a Mazarite and more of, well, something different. Like a Malurian, no less. He says.
Let's see. Are you aiming to unsettle him in any way,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, I'm trying to catch him off guard, make him panic a little bit.
Okay.
I'm doing the Columbo thing, man.
Yep. Give me a command and insight roll, or rather, command and. Actually, this could either be command or security, depending on which way you want to lean. And this will be insight. Well, this will be rolled against Ethal here.
I like the Columbo thing.
Presence and command, and I will use diplomacy, the things that could offset people or make them open up in this sort of wordplay that comes with it. And Patel, would you like to help out? Since I'm using you as a assistant here.
Gladly.
What would you like to do to help out here?
Roll an assist.
You're gonna do anything else? Like gonna say anything, do anything?
Do I have anything on the pad? Like, since I have this pad full of research about like, I guess both species really, or at least about Malurians, but like anything that I can point to and be like, oh, in the case of this anomaly, you have 2 hearts instead of 1, or something weird like that I can just sort of use to underscore the point.
Well, I mean, the weirdest thing is that beneath the humanoid-appearing flesh, it appears to be synthesized and grafted over reptilian flesh in such a very precise way, which, for whatever anyone can say about Earth doctors not being medically trained to identify other alien species, that's pretty stark or pretty obvious.
You seem to be cold-blooded. Yeah, if just say something like that, just like a little tidbit from the thing that is extremely obvious.
Certainly we wish for your comfort here, and you do seem a bit sluggish. You want me to like get a heat lamp or something?
Oh yeah. So no, this is a great one. When we're speaking with the quartermaster, should we arrange a basking stone or a heat lamp or anything to that effect?
Yeah,
that is pretty good. I will allow. Let's see.
I do think we have a supply of dried flies on board.
Oh man, I'm going to allow you to roll presence and science to assist.
Also, it does occur to me that this is mildly space racist, so hopefully it's not
mildly.
Oh, that we're
Ooh.
oh no!
I'm gonna. Can I use momentum to get rid of that thing?
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Let me grab 2 more.
Oh no!
Oh,
all right, 2 more.
Well, wait a minute. 2 momentum would just mean buying off that complication, not
Okay.
roll. So
okay, yeah, then ignore the second one.
Yeah, reclaim 2 of those momentum.
Otherwise,
I don't know how to reclaim them.
It would have been terribly funny if that just meant he was offended by my racism.
Yeah, but
so, I'll deal 2
right,
back.
Let's
to
roll.
Amanda.
There we go. That ain't bad.
Right.
I'll re-roll the 1. There we go.
What are you? I forget.
Presence command is what I rolled.
Yes, but
And
you have cautious?
cautious. Yeah.
Okay. That was what I had forgotten. Okay, so yeah, buying off the complication there. Let's see whether Ethol can catch on to that bit of cover there. Let's see. I'm actually going to spend 1 point of threat to give him an additional die as he rolls. If he were capable of blanching a bit in terms of his skin tone, then I'm sure that he would. But I don't know that it's necessarily that capable of simulating the full range, this synthetic flesh of his. He does, however, give a pretty noticeable give on the facial expression, and I think that between yours and Patel's comments, some of them he feels pretty worn down. Do you plan on telling the Mazarites?
Depends on the details and what you have to offer me in exchange.
I wish I could say that I had more, but most of what I was here to acquire was on that data module that Visenia smashed up. Lousy Orion.
Why are you with Mazarites? Who's your sponsor or supporter? What exactly were you trying to get from that data?
The party that I represent is interested in the information that data rod has because of what the Mazarites have been able to do to this point. My people have there are those among my people that believe we need to reach out to the stars if we are to survive in the future. My alignment has undertaken means in order to do so that are looked down on by some of the others, but we see them as necessary. However, our operations have been thwarted by the Mazarites. Most recently, it has been an issue of competition. Their government, on one hand, is extremely repressive against operations within the territory they administer, and then their Zankor syndicate, the criminal group led predominantly from Mazar, has been brutally effective in outcompeting us in the areas where we could survive. It represents a tremendous setback for us, and we were trying to get the information because, well, we think that there's something tied to their benefactors. Or something that might link, if not at least to their government, but if I'm right, maybe even back to the syndicate itself.
And who would I talk to, especially if I wish to return you? I'm certainly not bringing you back to the Mazarites.
Well, since Unicon is no longer an option, there are other any free port will quite frankly do. But I would just ask it not be If I were to ask for one port to avoid, I would ask any place administered by the Vulcans be avoided.
She gives her brows furrow. Why?
Is that not clear to you? The High Command has been backing the Mazarite government, and if I have this read correctly from my time in infiltration, they may be, in their own way, supporting the Zankor Syndicate themselves. She has the evidence I need to say for sure.
There's a very firm, contemplative stare. Anything else of worth you can tell me? You're certainly giving a good bargain, but not quite the full sale.
You have everything I know, Captain. Do what you will.
Can I insight him, or does it look like he's tapped out, or does it seem like he's holding back anything?
Give me insight and command. I'm not going to have him roll, so this will just be a difficulty one.
All right, diplomacy.
Diplomacy. I don't think that would apply actually.
Really? Okay.
This is more of an interrogation at this point.
Gambling?
Less so too.
That was a gamble.
It was a gamble. Like, he's gambling his life here.
No, I meant that asking for that focus was a gamble.
Oh yeah, that too. All right. So insight, security, or insight and command.
I'm going to rule security in this case.
All right. Let's see. Not bad.
Yep. So I'll give you enough. He seems like he's pretty much given up at this point. If there's something that he's reserving, then it is impossible for you to discern from his tone and mannerisms. But if you didn't know otherwise, you would suspect that he's given up the game. He recognizes that things are up for him. He probably doesn't know to expect whether you are going to turn him into the proper authorities or someone else, and frankly he doesn't know that he can do much more damage at this point, or much more damage could be done by the situation he's caught in.
All right. Get it comfortable. You've sold yourself. I'll figure out what I can do. It might take a few days. I have more important things to deal with, but I'm not handing it to the mouse rights.
His voice, which is Ethal, his voice having dropped down a little bit, it's worth noting. There's a little bit more husk to it from the slightly whinier, shall we say, or slightly higher voice he was using as Ethal. Very well, Captain. I shall hope you stick to your word, and I will await your judgment.
Right. Patel, do you have any other questions?
I do not.
Great. Get yourself comfortable. Nurse, see to it that he is well, while I find a nice place for him to be stowed until he can be transported out of here. And she's just going to leave. That's done. That's taken care of. I'll look to Tell as soon as we leave. Could you inform Athena that she has a former spy that she could use? Would be a nice little gift for her to debrief. Possibly useful for Starfleet intelligence. Certainly, there's a lot more things going on. Do you believe him?
I don't not believe him. He didn't seemed like he's yeah, obviously he is hiding something else. He's not being completely forthright, but I also see no reason to mistrust what he said. It's just a shame we don't have access to that data disk.
Yeah. Which means more information from Visenia.
Otherwise, it could be possible that the Commander Romanov might be able to find something like a backup of the data that was on the disk on the ship itself. Should I inform her to take a look?
Be careful. Inform her to be careful. There might be more precious things in that database than we thought before. And it might even involve Vulcan, so which might cheer her up a little bit, despite our stress. She says with a lopsided smile.
Understood.
And when you can, have Crichton give me a secure signal as possible to Athena with all the information we've collected.
Sure. Would you like a two-way communication or just a message?
Actually, no, this is big. This is a bigger. This is a lot. Attica, this is a lot bigger than just my wife. Actually, give it to my father-in-law, section chief. Just send one-way message, as high security as possible, or just have him send a message that we need talk. I don't trust our subspace, current subspace, unless we make extra steps. Not with this information. Or suspicions, that is.
I'll have Mr. Crichton send off a one-way request for communication, Starfleet Priority 1 encryption.
With Section Chief Mitchell, yep.
Got it.
Okay. So, while all of that is going on, elsewhere, on the Spoiled Prince, Romanov, Shira, and Sabral are among the group that are presently trying to pull information off of that. Unfortunately, as Romanov has reported, you've hit a small snag for which I will spend 2 threat in order to create a small disadvantage or slight narrative setback. Romanov is going through the computer banks and tells you, well, drat, it does seem like those pirates did actually manage to throw us off a little bit. Seems like during the boarding action, they might have cleared out some of their navigational logs, or one of them had the bright idea to try to wipe the main computers. I might be able to pull something from the backups or find signs of something else here, Lieutenant, but it's gonna be a little bit.
Also try their sensor logs. It's not perhaps the most obvious place to start deleting things. That should still be able to show what ships they came into contact with.
I'll see what I can pull up. Mr. Sorrel, you might actually be pretty good with that. You work with sensors, and have you ever worked with an Orion ship yourself?
Not yet, I haven't.
Well, here's your chance.
Sorry, I feel like I gotta ask because, the captain of all people worked on an Orion ship. And I mean, not just now, like, a long time. That boggles the mind. I've still got so many questions.
Well, ask the captain.
I'm sure the captain will probably maybe answer some of them at some point in the future.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Well, let's try to answer some questions for her first, and then maybe when this is all done and everything's all settled up, and we'll get everything cleared and get things okay. While you're while everyone's here, first, are there any tasks that you want to attempt? And then second, would there be any sort of interaction or discussion you'd want amongst each other?
I mean, Soral would try to see if the data has been like completely scrubbed or just deleted. You know how there's always like remnants left over in computer files. I just assuming that in 300 years' time, computers still work roughly the same.
Certainly.
Because computer engineers are lazy.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just made half the internet my enemy. Hi guys.
Yes.
No, if it's like if the data is deleted from everywhere, if every backup has been deleted, if the data has just been overwritten and not deleted or anything, or if it's like actually been scrubbed.
Yeah. Give me just a quick insight and science here. Or engineering actually would be more appropriate.
Would computer supply?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I'm gonna use the momentum for another die because we have it.
Yeah.
Okay,
nice.
That is 3 successes on that, which will... I actually don't recall if I assigned a difficulty to this.
Nope.
You did not.
I'll... Just to keep things easy, I think that this is well within your wheelhouse, even if this is an Orion ship. So I'll retroactively, let's call this a difficulty of 2. It's pretty clear that the main computer banks were, like, this was just more a simple matter of deletion. They didn't have much time to do anything extremely thorough. There might have been some signs that an Orion tried to scrub the databanks in a very crude manner, but I'm going to say there's still some... There are some trace signs of data that is still present, and indeed there are some data files that also still appear to be intact. So you could potentially pull out some like extraneous or side readings, but basically there are a couple different tracks you could follow. You might be able to stitch back together some of the navigational logs, which appeared to be the main focus of what they got rid of, are like navigational and sensor logs that would tell you exactly where they were and who they were speaking with. You might also be able to kind of indirectly figure out some of these issues by investigating the, what is it? Or like pouring through the other information that they didn't completely get rid of that might give you like other details from the sensor logs.
Could probably start with the sensor logs.
Okay. Let's see. I will ask you, Saral, then for... Let's call this a reason and science roll as you start going through the trace information there. I'm going to set the difficulty on this task to... Let's see here. I think the difficulty stitching this together, I'll call it 3 for this one.
I would definitely buy a die. Would computers or sensor operations apply?
Computers would definitely apply.
You know what? I buy a die with threat because then I can re-roll it.
Sounds good. You take the bold action.
I'm going to re-roll that complication.
Yep, 3 successes and a complication. which with bold you re-roll to where it is just...
It's a win. It's a win.
Yep. Okay, so Saral, as you start going through the sensor logs here, not all of the timestamps are intact. It seems like that might have gotten swept up, but there were some records that indicate in recent weeks a few interesting elements. So there's something that, for example, gives you an idea of some days prior to the whole the events of escalation before the Tellarite started mobilizing. You have a vague sense that there's like a marker that exists that gives you the sense of the spoiled prince possibly emitting or creating unusual particle emissions to help minimize or dissipate their warp trail, and energy, like some energy readouts that would suggest the ship was minimizing the delta radiation bleed off of its warp bubble. Part of that came from what seems to be an adjustment to a relatively lower speed, but they were basically doing all sorts of things to kind of dissipate as or minimize the dissipation and energy readings of their of the warp bubble itself, while also trying to minimize what they left behind. And from that marker, you can construct, based on the nature of the files, you can pick out a few interesting things from these sensor logs. The primary one actually notes that there was at one point a very interesting readout, one that suggests these sensors had at some point picked up a uniquely high concentration of alpha particles and some sort of complex carbon molecules in the immediate space, as in it may have passed through an interesting star system of some sort, or other site.
I like unique because that's identifiable. Yeah, can I identify that system, like with cross-reference of the Aegis databanks?
I will allow you to do so. If you would care to spend a point of momentum, we will treat this as an obtained information.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. While you are doing that, and let me see. While you're doing that, Shira, is there anything that you are particularly doing at the moment, or any interaction that you would want to have?
Probably pacing and being quite agitated.
Yep. Okay, well, as Saral is
Antenna are twitching.
Yep. As Saral's accomplishing his work, Romanov actually gestures you over. Hey, Lieutenant, can you come over here? I've got an important thing to check in with you about.
Yeah, what is it? Let's go.
Yep. She's looking like she's gesturing to the computer, but in a lower voice, she asks, "How you doing?"
I don't know. Just really... I don't know what to think.
Look, I gotta admit, I don't know either, but I don't know what exactly is going on here, but I mean, just, if we have a calmer moment at some point, and you need to talk, I'm here. So I get the experience of, if this is so, and I'm not saying it is, I'm not gonna question the honor of your Imperial Guard or whatnot, but my things went a bit screwy at my home recently too, so
yeah,
like I don't know what to think of what people that were there did entirely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the independence movement, but it's, there's some screwy things going on there. But Well, the same token, I'm loyal Starfleet, so I'm a bit conflicted there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just that I've spent time hunting Orion pirates, tracking them down, disrupting their operations, stopping their smuggling routes, and think that we may be involved in encouraging a bit of piracy just so we can benefit by getting a weapons program off the ground.
You don't think the Imperial Guard would really build a weapon of mass destruction like that, do you?
Could see us doing it. It'd be justified enough.
What kind of justification would you need to build a terrible weapon like that?
Deterrence. The Vulcans have shown little sign in. Vulcan High Command has shown little sign in wanting to have nice, stable relations with us. And the Tellarites are agitators too. And and if we ever run into the Klingons, well,
I mean,
so yes, I could see us trying to get hold of a weapon like that.
But that's, I don't know, it just seems a bit extreme. I mean, I know that I had a bit of time where things were a bit touch and go for me, I'll say, but Romanov kind of eases back in her chair. Things I thought were kind of getting better. I mean, Vulcan and Andoria negotiated that peace treaty 2 years ago, and we might be having a flare up with the Tellarites right now, but I've heard through the scuttlebutt there's once Columbia launches, they were going to get diplomats out there. I don't know what's going on with everything that's happened with the bombing on Vulcan, and she pauses. Back home.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd like to think that we could have something different if we wanted.
Be nice for that to happen. But we've had treaties with the Vulcans before. They haven't always worked out.
Well,
let's just hope that things get better before any weapon like that is built.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's us. She says less certainly than she did when in the briefing.
And it is at this moment, Saral, that you've completed your diagnostic, or rather the cross-referencing that you were doing with the unique particle signature.
Okay.
I sent you something in the Roll20 chat there.
Oh, there. Yeah. He would just sail out to the room. I think I found something.
What have you found, Saral?
What do you know about the Chara system?
What do I know about the Chara system, GM?
Just realized this is kind of an asshole way to go about it because you have to ask Zach anyway.
Reason and security.
I know reason and security about it, Saral. Okay.
I know that if it related to weapon, it's certainly a Vulcan system now. 100% Vulcan. They're A-okay with Vulcans.
There's nothing. No, none of my focuses. I just rolled 2. 1. I got 1 success. Don't even know what the difficulty is.
Well, the bad news is it's 4 days in the opposite direction, approximately, maybe 5.
Yeah.
That's Not good. Okay.
Shira, to the extent that you know anything about it, you know that the Imperial Guard has declared that system as off limits, supposedly for navigational issues within the star system. Beyond that, you don't recall much about the information there.
Know a whole lot about that system. What have you found about it?
Well, it seems like the ship was there, and it's definitely a unique and identifiable point, so should give us at least a good direction.
Does seem to be a
Why? What do you know about
breeze.
it?
It's hard to navigate through.
So the perfect meeting place.
Possibly. Anything else?
Not so far. Still looking, but might as well go somewhere.
Romanov steps over and she notices you have a tab going with the Aegis's computer, so she'll peruse it a bit herself. Huh. That is a little interesting. It's not actually a place any Earthship has been before either. It's all those alpha particles in the system and the molecular structure makes it kind of difficult to get a good sensor read in. If they'd been fast enough, we might have gotten a Neptune class surveyor out there. Yeah, I don't think we could even get a comm line out through that soup. What you thinking, Shira? Maybe we got ourselves a little hiding spot.
Could be.
Oh,
4 days travel. How many days from the Tellarite border would that be?
that would put you at 4.5 days.
We'd have to leave now. To stand any chance of.
You want to kick this upstairs? Let the captain know, or do you want me to put it through?
I'll put it through.
All right, I'll try to help Saral here, see if we can pull out anything else from this. No.
Is this where we both get taken out with the white weep stun? I'll inform the captain. Shoots both of them. Captain, we found nothing. There was an accident. Some of the traps the pirates left behind.
Oops.
I just managed to close the door while the bridge exploded.
They get sent 2 weeks ahead of time in the future.
Yep, during the bad future. Everyone's angry at everyone.
Oh, not again. We just had that game, Zach. Everyone was angry at us.
Yeah. Anyway, so Shira,
Cool.
while the other two, your other two teammates set to work on this, you set yourself aside from the crew in order to either tap the spoiled princess line or pull out your own communicator.
My
What do
own
you?
communicator. I don't trust the Orion one.
Perfectly fair. What do you elect to do?
Shira to Aegis.
Aegis here. Go ahead, Lieutenant.
I need you to patch me through to the captain.
Working now, sir. Right. Go ahead for Colonel Sharpe, which in those moments, Sharpe, wherever you are on the ship, preparing for the next interrogation, the intercom beeps and you're able to push the button. Crichton has you connected.
I am just getting my coat ready. Colonel here.
Soral has uncovered a possible location of the transfer of the Kemocite. Apparently, the spoiled prince visited the sorry, what system was it again? The
Chara.
the Chara system. It's about 4 days travel from here, and it's have to leave fairly quickly if we're to make it and get back to the Tellarite border.
We just have to inform them that we have them, but certainly not a bad idea to leave soon. Add a character. GM, I know we just had in-game, we had a discussion about keeping secrets, but what do I know of the Chara system?
Give me, I'll say, reason and command here. Or science might actually be more appropriate.
Science works. Reason, science.
Yep.
Not my best skill. All right, let's go. 1 ain't bad.
For the era, very little. At this point, so far as you know, it is not an inhabited system. It's not a place that any Earthship has visited. You did notice, well, rather, while you were on the Spoiled Prince, it was kind of something that might have come up on the navigational sensors. You were going in the opposite direction from it, but it was a place noted as it might have seemed noteworthy as like a navigational hazard, or at least something that would be difficult to cross through. Rather, it's the chemical composition of the nebula would create problems for, or not nebula, but rather the remnants of the nebula there.
I would probably thought it was a nice hiding spot, but it was too far away and ignored it. Okay.
The Andorian Empire have listed it as a do not go to system due to navigational hazards.
All right. Take as much as you can from that ship, and I'll give you the codes to the personal quarters of the captain, and then head back on here. We're leaving as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. I'll get Romoff and Soral to finish up.
You did good, Lieutenant. And when you can, I'd like to see you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So as you snap shut your communicator, you and the ship prepare to head into what may be a very uncertain course as you are about to embark on this next fateful leg of your journey here. And that is where we are going to call off for the session, or rather where we are going to conclude. So yeah, thank you everyone for stopping in here. I think that is where we will turn off the recording. So for those of you that caught it here, glad you enjoyed. If you ever want to catch us live, we run this live at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. GMT. So we will see you next time, everybody.